Going to be talking about offensive coordinator candidates. Brock, there's a lot of them out there. And let's run through some of them. I want your thoughts. You know a lot more about these guys, certainly, than I do. And for convenience sake, I'll use the piece that Michael Sean Dugar wrote yesterday and just run through some of the names that he brings up, starting with the guys in-house. Yeah. And that list starts with the name you brought up earlier, Jake Peetz.
Yeah, I'm going to run this through my filter, and my filter is what I tweeted out yesterday of toughness. It's of run creativity. It's just that complementary piece that Matt Hasselbeck was talking about with your head coach. And now Peetz, and this is from Sean's article, McDonald did say this just a week and a half ago. He adds a lot of experience. I've known Jake for a long time. This is McDonald speaking. He's been around the block. He's seen a lot of things, people that offer their opinions, and that's well thought out, detailed, and built around the principles we want to do. That's a lot of the stuff Jake does, both as a program and with our offense. Definitely respect his opinion. So he was the passing game coordinator. Brady Henderson last week, Salk, when you were out, awarded him the Broyles Award as the top assistant on the Seahawks staff when I posed that question to Brady because of a lot of those things that Mike McDonald has said about him. Peetz came from L.A. I chatted with him, if you remember, before our training camp practice, the assistant that I was chatting with, A, because he's got like 7 kids. B, I did some of his games when he was at LSU and a few different spots in college football. But when I think of Peetz, do I think of run? Do I think of run game creativity? Do I think of finishing a play in a dominant position? Do I think of toughness? Those would not be attributes that I would assign to so many of these on this list.
All right.
As passing game coordinators more than run game.
Well, and that's the next one. T. Martin, who is currently the Ravens quarterbacks coach.
Yeah,
I don't trust you when it comes to T. Martin, though.
I had a very bad experience.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I just assume you hate him on behalf of Peyton or something.
No. I had a tough experience. He was a coordinator for Sam Darnold at SC. They were playing Ohio State. Ohio State had Bosa and all these NFL dudes. The other guy that went top 10 the next year to Washington, like just freak shows. And then all the just killed. And I was like, so how many screens you got? And he was like, none. We can block these guys. Yeah, like 12 sacks later the next day, I'm like, okay, that was not.
I just assumed you didn't like him because he won with the team.
He won a national title the year after Peyton.
Yeah,
whatever.
How about this Nick Caley, Rams tight ends coach and passing game coordinator?
Well, this is you can see this. I mean, how much Rams staff members can you have under Sean McVay, right? And now Peetz he was with them down there, and he fits in the Waldron, and some of them have been absolute home runs elsewhere. O'Connell there in Minnesota, so you can understand why the league just continues to pluck branch after branch after branch after branch off of McVay's tree because the guy has been just a fertile machine of producing coordinators. Know very little about him.
Passing game coordinator.
100%.
And that's exactly the next name, Jason Vrabel, Packers passing game coordinator.
Right. I mean,
so I assume you're going to say the same thing.
Yeah, I mean,
Doug Peterson. Been a passing guy, right? Now there's some local ties.
Ferndale guy, as you know, Ferndale guy.
Yeah.
Cut his teeth there. Has he had some teams through the years that ran it more than they did throw it? Yeah. Can he be kind of a tough guy? Yeah. Has he obviously won a Super Bowl and been successful?
You kind of poo-pooed that yesterday.
I kind of did, but again, upon further review of all the guys we've mentioned here, I'd have to consider that one. Gotten a lot out of quarterbacks. Obviously, Trevor, big setback. Obviously, not the way you want to finish it in Jacksonville. But, Andy Reid is some old school. And Matt was saying, Hasselbeck, about Andy Reid, yes, a lot of flavor, a lot of fun. You know what else Andy Reid is? One of the few coaches with Mike Tomlin that still takes his teams away from the world to go about training camp and actually practice and actually put pads on and actually hit and do those things. That's a lot of the background of Doug Peterson in the past. I'm not going to poo-poo that one as I do.
I'm intrigued by that a little bit. The next one on this list is Mike McCarthy, if he's no longer the head coach of the Cowboys.
I'm going to be head coach, I think, somewhere else. Right. And to step down as no C would surprise me.
Mike Kafka, that's the guy that they interviewed twice for the head coaching job last year. Giants OC, who lost his play calling duties to Brian Dable.
That's right. Dable took it back over. That one is intriguing to me. I put him on the intrigue list mostly because they know him inside and out. mostly because John spent a couple interviews with him last year. And to do so, there had to be some level of intrigue there, you know, from that growth mindset, from that curiosity, from being a listener, being a leader of men. That one, I think you'll see him on the list again. That one has some, I put a kind of a star by him, a star by Peterson so far,
and then
a star by Peetz just because of the background.
The last name on this list was Alex Van Pelt,
right?
Who was mostly recently with the Patriots. I still think of him, I think, as a Buffalo quarterback back in the day.
I do too.
Were you about the same era?
Yes. He was just a couple years older than
That
me.
sounds right.
I almost went to Buffalo. My QB coach in Seattle got the OC job in Buffalo. There was almost a trade. Almost ended up out there.
Too many blue houses for you.
Yeah, way too many. Going with him instead. Now he's got some run game background. He was with Stefanski in Cleveland. New England this year was pretty creative. It's a hard judgment there, because the tools to work with were so limited and the O-line was so bad. But he, at least to me, has some toughness, right? And understands, as a former quarterback, that it's got to be set running the ball first. So yeah, there's some intrigue there. There was no wow factor to me. There's no like, ooh.
So it's interesting that for all of the conversation about, you know, the teams that are running the ball the most, I don't really hear anybody who's currently with Philadelphia. I don't hear anybody that's currently with Detroit. The only Baltimore
the Detroit
person,
guy is going to go, obviously.
Well, Ben Johnson, but is there somebody under Ben Johnson that is ready to be a coordinator? You're not looking to hire a head coach. So is there somebody under him that maybe is ready to be an OC? And then the only Baltimore name we hear is the passing game coach.
Yeah, the thing that complicates this a little bit, and I asked DJ, I was texting with Daniel yesterday, and he can add a whole lot more to this tomorrow, is Greg Roman. So Greg Roman is and we have some history with Greg Roman. He was a coordinator for Jim Harbaugh back in the years. You know, when they beat Seattle, he's the one that screamed "Merry Bleeping Christmas" to the press and everybody listening in the press box on the way to the elevator. Kind of a fairly bombastic, strong personality. And it's interesting, there's not a lot of Greg Roman tree. Like, that would be the one that would be the natural, okay, so if you're looking at Mike McCarthy and all the background in Baltimore and all the background with the Harbaughs and all the background, okay, so the tree, like a Sean McVay, the tree is Greg Roman. But the roots and the branches, you don't see that. You don't see a lot of, and even the crew down in L.A. is kind of a ragtag crew of different assistant coaches. There's not somebody under him that's like, ooh, yeah, I'm really intrigued in this guy. Because to me, he'd be the most natural fit, but there's just not been a plethora of coaches that have come off of his tree.
It still seems surprising to me that of the teams that are running the ball the most and the most effectively, that none of those names have come up. And my guess is they will. I mean, I would think there's so much reverence from Mike Macdonald to those three teams, Philly, Detroit, and Baltimore, that are 1, 2, and 3 in running the ball this year, attempts. That I would expect to see somebody from those teams interview.
Well, the one that adds a little bit of not necessarily a wild card, but hey, be careful what you just think, and be careful of your bias, and be careful of a title, is I don't think anybody thought Kellen Moore was going to go to Philadelphia and have a 2,000-yard rusher. Right, Kellen Moore is a former quarterback. True. Kellen Moore was down in Dallas. Kellen Moore had Dak Prescott. They threw the ball way more than they ran it. And then he goes there and he looks at the tools he's got and goes, oh, yeah, we're going to run it. Let's bring Saquon in. And he goes back to his Boise State days where they really were a run, power, play action, and then, take your shots kind of deal. So that is where having some of that growth mindset, some of that curiosity, some are really doing, as Mike Macdonald said, their homework, and they're going to go about it in that way. And just be careful. Maybe the cover says Kellen Moore finesse passing game. Kellen Moore goes to Philly and knows where the bread is buttered.
We got to run here in a minute. You mentioned 2 other names earlier. Just give them to me again so people know, especially the last one.
Yeah, Andy Kotelnicki would be the college end of things, but is the most creative run guy I have ever experienced in my 20-some years of college football. And the other one is David Shaw. When you want to look to a guy that knows how to, and initially certainly wanted to run the ball, and comes out of that Harbaugh tree, and so many connection points, that would be a name that would be intriguing to me.
I love it. All right.